Matt goes on mute.
Recording is on.
Welcome to the weekly call for DXdao. I feel like Sky, right before he starts the recording, he likes to ask a question that kind of like baits you into saying something stupid right as the recording is starting. But yeah, I know your game, Sky.
I was about to respond. I almost took the bait.
Be careful. Everybody's been warned. So yeah, we're recording now. So we usually start with product updates and usually start with Omen and Geronimo. If you'd like to give us the update there.
Yeah, 1 second. So we are sadly 1 day delayed for the new release, primarily because when you do restyling of components, you can't just like not do like restyle the rest of the components. So you actually need to restyle everything to have a consistent UI, and that's why we are a little bit delayed with that, which will hopefully be released today. So I'm on version 1.9. There are like way too much changes, so I can't like go through them all. But we fixed a few like issues which have been around for a while, but now we actually like looked into it. It was primarily fixed by Hexel, a new developer joining. Hopefully, he has a proposal active and can be voted on. And yeah, we have a new redesign for the whole import market flow. We have actually like, I would say, a complete redesign of the market details view, which will hopefully include everything what we want and will not change for a while. What else? Yeah, so that's actually like a major release. There might be still some small polishments to be made, but I feel pretty good about calling the upcoming release like a base, like an acceptable release, which we call actually like a production ready release. So it's not alpha, it's not beta. And going forward, we're going to build on top of that product and including like more features, like actually leveraging the Gnosis Safe Proxy Kit, which means native Ether support, DXswap integration, Gelato integration, stuff like that. And right, in terms of scalar markets, we are progressing really well with that. The creation is kind of already in alpha, so we the front end has been implemented, and we're testing the creation of scalar markets on Omen, and XDAO designs are ready. So we have a lot to do for the next version.
That's awesome. I don't think this is a DXdao effort, but something I've been waiting for is the conditional token explorer. Do you know where?
Good question. Based on the call we had today, it's release ready, and it will be released soon.
Awesome, that's cool. So for people who aren't aware, Omen uses the conditional token framework, and it uses 1155s, ERC 1155s, which most wallets don't even really display or support, right? So this is going to be a UI that will allow you to see your balances and stuff, and also wrap them in ERC20s. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Anything else on Omen?
The Omen squad has tried to do to progress. It seems like there are issues with Gnosis library, like more specifically the Gnosis Safe Proxy Kit, which needs to be upgraded. So Gnosis Safe multisig can actually interact with the Omen protocol. So that's like a bummer, but it seems like the Aragon DAO system can actually create markets on Omen. So we need to explore that.
Federico, do you know something about that? I feel like Federico was messing around with Aragon and prediction markets.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stopped. I mean, I didn't really go move on with that, so I can't tell you anything right now.
The other alternative which someone raised in Keybase is to build a direct scheme from DXdao to Omen, which would be the safest and best way to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And it would take that extra custom work, but apparently if you do that, you don't have to deal with like the proxy wallet or whatever that is causing the problem. Which that would be really cool if Omen, if DXdao could just do it directly, we don't need some separate mechanism.
Yeah, like I'm skeptical about DXdao providing liquidity. Like if it's not a presidential election, then like everything else is not safe. It's like everything else is risky because you kind of need to move quick if something changes. Like if an outcome is known, the liquidity needs to be removed.
Geronimo, with that scheme, could you just speed up? Can you do a faster proposal so it works more like a multi-sig?
You'd have to be careful because it's going to have control. Presumably it's going to have to move funds, right? So
yeah. So I guess you would want a sub DAO. So if you had a sub DAO with its own parameters and you just feed it a little bit of money and use that sub DAO as a multi-sig that could act quickly, that's always better than a multi-sig. It seems more. We don't have a good example of a sub DAO on mainnet working though.
Yeah, and that's actually quite interesting. Like that could be a start of the Omen DAO, right? People who interact with the system, and it can actually grow. And like the more people think about innovative, creative markets, the better for us. And there are a lot of people who are lurking around on Telegram who could think about nice markets. So we should invite the community to participate in that process. And yeah, we need to evaluate like which kind of DAO system we need to use there. If Aragon is possible to do right now, we should just use it and hopefully it works, because we tried it once and nothing worked with Aragon.
Yeah, we're asking a few people who have some expertise with it, but I do believe that it is going to be a lot more expensive to use it through Aragon, assuming it does work. So it's probably not like a long-term best answer, but an Omen sub DAO would be pretty cool, like longer term, which we've talked about in the past. Yeah.
I think using the Aragon DAO for the bounties on Mesa, it worked. It was just kind of expensive and a little clunky. But I mean, it functioned. It wasn't like it just didn't work.
Was it tied in? Like in that case, you didn't tie it into like operate Mesa at all, right? Like it couldn't like put liquidity into Mesa, could it? It was just for bounties.
I don't know.
It was just for bounties.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah.
So there's actually like another argument for having this Omen DAO, primarily because like depending on the size of the Omen DAO starting, we can move quick and we can test the generic scheme to Omen, so we can like install it and then interact with that system and then like allow it to grow with people who care about Omen, and then maybe reduce the or increase the time. But yeah, I believe a multi-sig is still the best option for us because we need to move quick. in terms of like at the end of the day, the squad needs to make money, and you
I can
can make
tell
money
you-
if you move quick.
I can just tell you that you can create a multi-signature wallet today and start using it now. And it has been being used for years now. It managed a lot of funds. I was using it on my previous company. I know that different companies use it too. So
Okay, so
it
we
is
used
so.
it.
With Omen?
We use the multisig, the Gnosis Safe multisig, and we use Wallet Connect to go to Omen and then interact with the product, and that doesn't work. Like, yeah, we could craft a nice transaction, and then shoot it out, but at the end of the day, people need to you need to be a hardcore developer to understand what's going on.
No, Geronimo, we could do that. That doesn't work. That's going to be the same issue. That's basically what Wallet Connect is doing. You're going to run into the same exact problem.
No, like there's also a way to actually create a transaction from the multisig who's creating a question and a market itself. And like
The raw data.
Yeah, so you actually don't use this proxy kit shit anymore. Because the proxy kit is primarily for humans who are using Omen, but we could create an action, but that's only for hardcore devs. Like I don't even know how to do it.
You could make an app for the Gnosis Safe. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with that system, but it's basically just a wrapper for what you're talking about, Geronimo, to make it, have better UX for users.
Yeah, Ezra, the app, like the Gnosis Safe App Store, they have a plan to put Omen in there eventually, but that also uses the proxy.
Exactly.
But that also, so the proxy kit has to be upgraded for that as well.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they are in the process. We will get to a point where the multisig is capable. It just requires time and wait for Gnosis to fix it, which is not a good thing. So we need to check out if Aragon works, and if it just works, then we just use it for now, and then probably once the multisig works again, we're gonna move over.
But if you want to join and contribute and follow this along, it's in the Omen Keybase. Omen Keybase.
I like this idea of using the ERC20 guild. You could let DXD holders vote on how to fund new Omen markets, but that's in the future, I guess. All right, so moving along, Mesa also had its little bit of problems this past week. The latest release didn't actually work on DXdao due to some configuration mistakes. There's a new release and I think also a proposal that's up already to fix those issues. Other than that, not sure of any other news on Mesa. PrimeDAO is doing their sale on Mesa on November 9th. That's coming up. Does anybody else have anything else to add? If not, let's move to DXSwap, where there's been a lot of activity this week. Gusto, maybe you can kind of give us a little update there.
Yeah, sorry. DXSwap, we are working on the next version that is going to be, we are aiming on the next version of the app, killing issues with Federico and Seth. So you can follow up the progress in the version B0.4, this branch, the pull request 45 in the DXSwap app. In the DXswap app repository. I just deployed the latest one, the latest state of the develop branch on IPFS, so anyone can go there, test it. Federico is working on integrating the token picker feature, and then we need to change the themes, and I think we will be ready to go. The only thing that we are having troubles with is the base tokens. Well, USky had problems with that because we are using only like wrapped Ether, and we are going to use DXD and maybe another stablecoins as base tokens. But I think it will be, we were talking about this as being a feature where the user can change the tokens that are being used as base for swapping, for making swaps, for other liquidity, for looking for other liquidity pools. This could be a very good feature, I think. So, but it is not required for the first launch, for the initial launch. And yeah, we were talking about how we are ready to deploy to mainnet, but I think we decide that we want to test the liquidity relayer first, right? Before doing the final deployment.
I think it would be good to test the fee2 setter, potentially even just like the profit fee2 contract too, if we can get that up and running, and the relayer as well. If we could do some of that testing on Rinkeby, I think that makes sense to do now before finalizing the release, even though it's not completely necessary. I think it's just a good exercise. The relayer contract is also currently under audit right now. I think that should be complete on Monday or Tuesday. What else? Yeah.
The base token topic, which we've had a pretty detailed conversation about. When we were talking about the base tokens, we were mainly talking about routing orders through the base tokens. But Augusto, my understanding, what you're telling me this morning is, if you have a pair not with a base, there's other things that rely on the base tokens, like such as discovering your liquidity pools. So when you go to pools, if it's not using a base token, it doesn't show up. So if there's other things relying on base tokens, that's pretty important. But I didn't think that that's how Uniswap works. So we should figure that out.
Oh yeah. There is a lot of money that is being routed through different pairs. Uniswap decides which tokens you are going to use as base for swap and searching liquidity. But well, the real money is on swapping, right? So that's where the most important base token concept comes in. Then you can find your way around about adding and removing liquidity on special pairs. But yeah, you have like two types of base tokens. One is for checking liquidity, and another one is for looking for swaps. The problem, the issue is that the more base tokens you have, the more computation is going to demand to the browser to look and search for the best pair possible. So I think that's a limit.
When you say two different base tokens, maybe we can use two different names, because if one is a base token for routing and one is a base prime token for like discovering your pool, those are two different things, right?
Yes. I mean, we can use the same base token for everything, like the same base token list, but they have different purposes. And the most important one is the one for routing.
Yeah. Okay.
Guys, quick question. What work does the relayer do in this context? Just because relayers mean different things in different projects, and from my layer 2 world, I'm just, what does the relayer do? Or is it kind of like everything?
Nico's the author, so feel free to jump in, but the relayer in this context is relaying liquidity from DXdao to DXswap. So what that does, kind of in more detail, is once you have a proposal to fund a liquidity pair from the DXdao treasury, right? So that some tokens would be sent, say, DXD and ETH, for example, although, there's been a lot of discussion about how we do that, but it goes to the relayer first, and then the relayer will actually allow calls to be made to check the oracle, to check the price for that pair. And it's actually done over a period of time, like a time-weighted average oracle using either a Uniswap or DXswap, depending on what you tell it to do. And basically the whole purpose of this is to make sure you have a good sense of what the market price for that pair is before the liquidity actually gets deposited into DXswap, because the moment you deposit liquidity at like a ratio that is off of the current market price, then arbitrageurs will basically like extract value from your pair. And we're trying to avoid that with this relayer.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So it's only when when liquidity is coming from the DXdao, like normal users need not use it. Is that right, or no?
I'll let Nico jump in here, because I mean, I wonder, it might be extensible.
Yeah, I guess like the challenges arise especially for DAOs because of the nature that you create the proposals a few days ahead and cannot predict the actual market prices. So I guess for actual real users that just use the usual wallet, you don't have that kind of issues. But any kind of like organizations and DAOs that cannot execute transactions immediately, but going through a governance process could probably have the same issue here.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
I should just add that I'm working on with Nico kind of a explainer for this, especially because actually what Nico kind of said at the end, I do think this is something that is extendable to other DAOs and other kind of groups. For those of you who may have seen earlier this week, Yam Finance did a swap or a purchase of the DeFi Pulse index token through a somewhat interesting way, but I think the one that the relayer here is a little bit more sustainable, I think, for the long term. So, but anyway, I'll just say I'll hopefully have a draft of that today or tomorrow.
It might be good too to create a smart contract like architecture diagram that we can share and include in this post, and I'd be happy to help on that kind of the system as a whole. Sorry, Matt. Oh, were you saying something, Matt?
Oh, no. No, thank you, guys. Very clear. Got it.
Awesome. Yeah. So I definitely encourage people to test out the Rinkeby version of DXswap, find bugs, tell the devs about it, or file it in the GitHub repository, because that's still going on, but we're getting close to the final release here. As we are moving along. On the Rails side, I think we're keeping Federico pretty busy with DXswap at the moment, but he'll be doing some stuff there. I don't know, Matt, if you wanted to add anything from the Loopring side there, what's going on, or when V3 3.6 might be ready. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. That's really the only thing we're focused on right now, that and the app product. So no like intermediate updates. Federico is also getting involved in helping that on our relayer side, on the API side. So he will have a great knowledge about all this. And congrats, by the way, Federico, full-time DXdao now and all this. So that's really that's awesome to see. One thing, because yes, we've been thinking a lot about like how tokens will be included, because it's not so easy, because not all like some present a security risk if they're like deflationary or rebase ones on layer 2, and they could mess with the system. I was just trying to think where else Rails could use, Rails and Loopring itself can use DXdao services. I was thinking about like the token curation, but I was wondering, like, I'm not up to date with the state of the art on that. Like, are we doing something around like token lists, for let's say DXswap? Is it are we using like Klaros's TCR still? Like what's the state of the art on these token lists for the DXdao?
DXdao can maintain and does maintain multiple token lists and could add another one pretty easily.
Okay.
We could go into more detail on like how the UI on DXSwap is, but I mean, to answer your question, I think it's basically yes. Yeah. If Loopring wanted to have DXdao maintain a token list for Loopring, I think that's possible. Obviously, Klaros also maintains like a list that Uniswap uses. Omen is using Klaros, so Klaros is a good option too. But DXdao is also capable.
Okay. Yeah. So besides that, no, I'm excited for what 3.6 means for Rails is the ability to send to any address, not just people who are on. So that's exciting. But I don't have any other updates. Maybe Federico has something or some. I know he's always thinking about improvements in mind, but maybe he has something to say.
3.6 also means lower entry and exit gas costs, right?
Right. Or completely hidden. Like if I send you one DAI on Loopring ZK rollup and you never heard about Rails or layer 2, you could just go to an interface and sign a message, not even do a transaction, but just sign a message, which uses your Ethereum ECDSA signature and creates you your layer 2 EDDSA signature, and you're onboarded and you paid nothing because the sender, like the fee might have been hidden. It can either be covered by the app or the sender. Yeah, but if you wanted to onboard like yourself, it is cheaper, but in some cases you won't be onboarding at all. You just show up with your Ethereum address and sign something to bring yourself on board.
Nice. What is the deposit and exit? Do you know that off the top of your head? Just in general, once you have an account, a so-called account with the layer 2, like once you're registered with the layer 2, what is the general cost of entering and exiting that with your tokens?
Right. Yeah. So the huge improvement, decreased gas cost, is on the onboarding. It goes from like whether it's like abstracted or not, it's between 500 and 5,000 gas from 274,000 gas. So like huge reduction there. On the actual depositing and withdrawal, it's only 40% improvement, not 500x improvement. But so I think you're looking at 60,000 gas. I get depending on the token, but 60, 70,000 gas to move your own assets on and off the chain, layer 2.
That's cool. Is there anybody developing I know 3.6 also enables AMMs. Is there any activity around that you know of?
Yeah, so this is like an interesting business discussion or like identity discussion, but we are implementing the balancer curve on our ZK rollup. So when we speak with that team and we made a kind of an informal proposal, say it's just like, hey, it's done. Balancer is on a ZK rollup. Here it is, and they were like, wow, that's cool that it's done. It's on testnet right now. Do they want to add like BAL token LP rewards for this other environment of Balancer? The community is discussing that. We don't really obviously we would like that. It's cool. It would add to incentives to come onto our layer 2, but we're not tied to it. So it's not like Balancer itself. It's not like we're trying to solicit other teams. Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about, but we're not saying hey, come build your new AMM here. It's like this supports AMMs. It's more so, hey, liquidity providers, come here if you want to be able to add and remove liquidity gas free and trade gas free. So yeah, so it's not I don't think you're gonna see teams saying, hey, I'm building a new, this is what I do with a fancy Oracle or a new type of function, a curve, building it on the ZK rollup. It's just now it supports Balancer style curves, Uniswap style curves. So I don't think we're inviting teams to come innovate and deploy their new stuff there. It's just like the ZK rollup supports AMM. Yeah, is that clear? It's honestly hard.
One question I have is, how does a user create their pool? Do you deposit? So say I have 2 tokens, right? Do I deposit both of them one at a time, and then once I am on the ZK rollup, like through the loopring interface, I can then add liquidity to that balancer pool or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's hard. It's funny. Like I don't know if we're gonna call it, the balancer pool, because then it is, different liquidity than the, let's say, DAI ETH balancer pool on layer 1. So maybe we don't want to, just signal that it's, hey, you're at. But yeah, that's a side question. But yeah, on layer 2, if you have assets on Rails right now, if you have $10 in ETH and $10 in DXD, you could add liquidity to the AMM in the layer 2 environment completely. You'll be minted a token there. But I'm not like a complete expert on this. It's kind of complex, and me and Federico were like, I know he was learning more about it too, but you could do all these operations, join, exit, swap from layer 2. Never. It's actually unclear to me what you could do from layer 1, going backwards, like what you could do.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets really interesting, is where you could potentially do some stuff between layer 1 and layer 2. But anyways, I have some thoughts, but this is probably more of a discussion for the DX swap strategy call or something separate. But yeah, very, very cool stuff though. Yeah. Anything else on Rails or layer 2 or? I mean, well, kind of other, not a layer 2, but a sidechain is DXdao. So yeah, the newest version of Mesa should support that. There's been a couple of hiccups with the DXdao deployment of the DXdao, but I think it's all getting worked out, if I understand correctly, and it'll be up and running pretty soon. Yeah, anything on the DXdao or the governance side that we should talk about? If not, we can move to the recaps of the other calls. So the BizDev call happened on Monday. Ingemar, I believe, is traveling, so he's not here to update on that. But Chris is probably a good person to talk to this to, because a lot of the discussion actually centered around DX swap and how to provide liquidity from the treasury.
Gosh, that feels like a lifetime ago. I was thinking that was Monday of this week. Yeah, so the discussion was kicked off. Actually, we discussed it a little bit on the call last week on how basically how DXD provided by DXdao should be priced in liquidity pools on DX swap. So we've been obviously talking all along about using DXdao liquidity to kind of seed DX swap. And if there's a 50-50 pool of DXD and ETH, the question is, well, how does that mean that DXdao is now offering DXD at a lower rate? So an interesting discussion, I think, on that. I think the kind of to summarize it in 2 points, really. I think one, it does bring up the philosophical question of what DXdao can do with the pre-mint, right? So the pre-mint, the 100,000 DXD, is completely separate from the bonding curve, and that's in the treasury. So if we were to be restricted with how, or I guess this, there may be some long-term implications for setting a precedent for how and under what conditions the DXD from the pre-mint can move. So far, that DXD has moved only for worker compensation proposals, and that's vested and also priced at the bonding curve. And then I think, secondly, kind of the discussion turned maybe separate from DX swap, but just on DXD token in general and the price of the token, and whether that is factoring into this discussion here, and whether I think the current price is like 0.35 ETH or something, which is much lower than the bonding curve. And so how does that factor into the strategy here, and whether or not the DXdao and the treasury could do some type of buyback of DXD because it thinks the price of DXD is low. So those are the kind of two, I think, broader issues that we're trying to address. The core issue of, can DXdao supply DXD liquidity at a quote unquote price less than the bonding curve?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And the premium is separate. You know, it's not minted by the bonding curve, but it is DXD and can be sold into the bonding curve when issued. So, yeah, important stuff. Was there anything else in the biz dev call that I'm forgetting?
Where did that combo leave? Like, what's the perceived conclusion? Will we be able? It seems like we should definitely use those assets productively, and not, you know, be held to the bonding curve thing. Or where did we leave off with that?
Are you saying my very political explanation didn't give you an actual conclusion of what we decided? Because I mean, which I think is a bit true. You know, there are a lot of different things we kind of discussed, and I don't know if we got to a strong consensus. That's kind of why I said I think what's kind of underpinning this is the price and performance of DXD separate from whether or not we can use the DXD for DXSwap. So the example I gave in the call on Monday was, if the current market price of DXD was 0.75 ETH, right? That would still be lower than the 1.03 ETH on the bonding curve, but I doubt we would be getting as much pushback or consideration for that. So for me, I think the price of DXD factors into this a bit more.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that, and then I think worried about the long-term implications of it. But I don't know if we've made a decision on whether or not to try to buy back DXD from the market to use in DXSwap. The other option is, well, maybe this means we shouldn't use DXDAO liquidity at all, or for DXD, and that we should try to incentivize DXD holders to put their own DXD into the pool, and we could do that through we could even give rewards in ETH. So I don't know if others had thoughts on where we end up or where we should end up.
I think it's worth thinking about what is that goal here, right? And the goal is, in my mind at least, to make DXSwap successful. And like, what is needed to make DXSwap successful, right? Like, you want the pair that, you want pairs in DXSwap to have the best liquidity, right? The best price and the best trading volume. So I actually don't think it's not like we need to just dump endless amount of DXD from the treasury to do that, right? There's really just there's some target amount, I think, that would suffice, right, to that end, like that would make the pool the most competitive on the market. And I think there's multiple ways to get there, right? Like getting other people who are providing liquidity on Uniswap or Balancer to move their liquidity over to DXSwap, or to incentivize other people to do that, or to actually use the treasury. So I think that's worth thinking about. Like, what is the real goal here? I think the other kind of I don't think there's super clear consensus on like what the approach should be, or kind of what the general guidelines are for using the treasury. But I think it is clear that it's very important to respect like the buyers of DXD off the bonding curve, right? Like if people had paid 1 ETH for a DXD, like it's maybe not the best idea to be market making from the treasury at prices that are significantly lower than that, right? So yeah, I think, Matt, like there's not super clear consensus on what the strategy will be, but I think these are the considerations, right, going forward. Yeah,
no, those are all good good points. I I can't reach a conclusion myself. So yeah. The goal, yeah, I mean the goal, we want this to be a successful product. Like the price of DXD, even assuming it was clear, like short-term pain, like offering it on the market at a less than fair value price, if that is true or whatever. That could be painful, but we're trying to make successful DXdao products, so it's like you got to do everything you can for that. But yeah, anyway, this is a hairy question for sure.
I think another interesting middle ground might be to set a target, be like, this is what we think makes successful DX swap, and then to see if, and you could even like make a plan, right, to provide liquidity from the treasury at a certain date if that target isn't met, right? Then DXD holders have the opportunity to kind of like go meet that target themselves, and if they don't, then the treasury steps in and does it, right? So just an idea that I've had.
Yeah, it just, because there's a couple different moving parts here, I mean, the fee strategy is kind of designed off of DXdao providing liquidity, because like we would set the fees low and make it basically not that appealing to LPs, knowing that DXdao could kind of step in. And so I get thinking about how we would have to use different, I think the three tools, you know, that really makes DXSwap different from any other product that we can adjust the liquidity is, one, using DXdao treasury liquidity. Two is adjusting the fees on each of the pools. And three is using some type of DXD rewards or any other type of liquidity incentives. And so I think just like when you move one, or you're trying to achieve one, that kind of has knockdown effects on the other. So I think it'll be maybe challenging. We'll have to think about how to calibrate specifically.
Yeah, that's a good point. The tool of like the DXdao liquidity being like in the arsenal, it's very unique, but it's also like, if you think about it from like the competitor, it's like the DXdao is the same as like some Uniswap lover, right? Who will just deposit asset. Maybe they have a lot of Uni, or maybe they just really love it. And if fees were low, they would still deposit liquidity. So it's like, it's very unique, but it's basically just like a super fan who will provide liquidity no matter what. And it won't be reproducible across other, as you said, like the fee strategy. So it's like it's like, okay, we will come in, we have this special liquidity provider who doesn't care about fees. Yeah, anyways, as you said, there's three tools there. I see.
I like John's idea of like publicizing and letting the community and DXD holders front run DXdao with very transparent like actions that can easily be front run in a positive some way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Sorry, Nico. We're trying to get front run now.
Yeah. Friendly front running. We can start creating that. Yeah.
I guess that's one way to think about it. Yeah, I mean, the fees are interesting, right? Because it's like there's a balance of, you know, the lower the fees, the more attractive for the user, right? But the less fee the LPs are collecting on each trade. But if that makes up for itself in volume, then the LPs could be happy, right? So it's a kind of a pricing question, right? Like as LPs, and you know, the other aspect of this is that if the DXdao is providing liquidity from the treasury, in some ways it's I don't know if competing is the right word, but like it's taking a share of that those fees from the other liquidity providers as well, right? So
yeah, this is actually, I think Zet had originally brought this up, like, oh, you know, that there is, and there's almost another metric in that discussion, which is like the denominator for the size of the pool. Because if you assume there's X amount of volume with certain amount of fees or rewards, for an LP's perspective, the big question is, okay, what percentage of that pool am I going to be? And if the DXdao is like 40% of that pool, that means like as an LP's perspective, 40% of the fees and 40% of DXD rewards would be going to that. So it's almost like, as I think we talked about, was like finding that optimal pool size that corresponds with like the amount of fees that are generated, and not trying to have the pool be larger than that, because then you're just really kind of wasting that liquidity. To give an example, this is from an Andrew Kang tweet thread about the WBTC ETH pool on Uniswap that is being subsidized by Uni Rewards. I think right now you can do like a $4 million trade with like less than 2% slippage. But the closest competitor for a centralized exchange, it's like, this is going to CoinGecko, is like $1 million. $1 million. So the argument is the Uniswap WBTC ETH pool is just too big. It doesn't need to be that big and offer that much liquidity, because the trade volumes are mostly in this area. And that extra liquidity is being subsidized by Uni Rewards. So it would be like wiser to kind of find that optimal one. So I think that's like the strategy and how DXdao can be that player that calibrates and adjusts that.
So essentially, the Uni holders are overpaying for liquidity on the WBTC WETH pair, with like no real added benefit to the protocol's dominance or themselves, right? Like,
that's very interesting. That's really one thing that could be very helpful coming up, or maybe it's out. I'm not sure if you've seen it, I think on Twitter, but like Covalent, the data company, is doing this dungeons and data competition on Uniswap. And I saw Ganesh, their founder, asked about like what he wants to see. And they're like basically slicing the data in a million ways, by wallet, by LP, by pool. And one of the things that he thought would be cool to see is like, like median liquidity provider side, trade size, to kind of own in on exactly what you said, like where, so yeah, just something, I'll make a note and I'll find the link after, but Dungeons and Data, we might be able to learn from them going through just really probably the most granular analysis of Uniswap pools and we could solve, hopefully, like learn something from exactly what you just said, not overpay for that. But yeah, Dungeons and Data, it looks pretty cool.
But yeah, I think what's cool here and what gives me faith that this will be worked out well is that we can have these debates and the parameters can be tweaked and DXdao can change things and kind of make decisions. And I think that's really the power of, even though decisions are a little bit slow, they take like a week or whatever to execute, it can be very adaptable in terms of, optimizing what we're doing to meet the goals. But yeah, it's just so we're moving along, getting towards the end here. Chris, on the governance call, anything else to update there? I think there were a couple important things there as well.
Sorry, I shouldn't talk before I'm about to talk a lot more too. So just on the governance 1.0 stuff, we had a discussion about another round of community rep boost. I made a reply on the thread that Sky had started on the previous one. I think there were 7 or 8 people listed there. So definitely kind of be involved in that. See if there's anyone else we should nominate. If you have any specifics to kind of add to the thread, that would be great. Talking about trying to make that more regular and what exactly those rewards do. Second, kind of the governance 1.x stuff, a couple different things there. One is Augusto unveiled a separate DXdao vote DApp that he has kind of been working on. There's also a thread on that. I would check that out. And then there was some discussion on the XDXdao, kind of a lot of things going on there, trying to figure out how to calibrate that. And then lastly, governance 2.0 stuff. So we're kicking off the kickoff call is next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, or East Coast US time. So we should have people set for that. If you're interested in kind of getting involved, let me know on that, and we'll be providing updates. Try to send out something before that to the thread, to the forum.
Augusto, do you want to talk a little bit about your post and why you think this is a good effort to make?
Yeah, sure. Well, the idea is to start taking control about our governance platform. Basically, start integrating some features that we have been talking for a long time, and at the same time, like I explained in the post, start pursuing what we say on the manifesto. To have something completely decentralized where we don't have to rely on any third-party services or a centralized entity to be able to vote. For example, I was saying that what you just said in the chat, that the graph was down. That was causing, for example, our voting that to be down. And even that, even if there is an issue on DAO stack hosting, the app can also go down. So we have choose two bottleneck. We can call it two bottleneck steps in our governance process, which I think that considering our funds, how far we have become, it is insane that we don't have a decentralized voting platform, at least something that where the idea is to make something purely decentralized. It doesn't need to be the most usable app. It doesn't need to be super fast. It just needs to work and to be stable, right? To be there, up and running, 24/7. Wow, something that we can rely upon, even if it is not the perfect app at the beginning. But the idea is to make something solid, that it works at first, and then iterate over that. There is a lot of things that we can do. And also, thanks to the DAO stack architecture that we are using, this modular design, it allows us to have a different governance application using another scheme, using another voting machine that will access the same funds that Alchemy, that we can access through Alchemy. So we can have two applications running at the same time. And eventually collaborating more closely together, because we will be able to integrate more features on our own, and DAO stack will be able to absorb them if they want, and we will be able to do the same from Alchemy. If they integrate something that is super cool, we will be able to take the JavaScript code and integrate it on our app. So it will enable more direct technical collaboration. So the idea is that sorry, just to finish. The idea is to start with this project next month, have the minimum viable product done. Maybe don't care too much about how it's going to look. Mainly about that it works and it's purely decentralized. Then we are going to optimize it, make it look nicer.
Yeah, I was just saying that I would encourage everyone to check out Augusto's post on what's it titled? I forget. I don't have the link here, but it's on DAO Talk near the top.
Yeah, DXdao Vote DApp.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat, Matt.
Oh, in the chat. DXdao Vote DApp. Post by Augusto and DAO Talk. Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. The other thing I'm excited about too, that's already in the works, is the DXD Guild, which should come before this. And for instance, we're talking about providing DXD liquidity from the treasury. I would love to see, some proposal to a DXD guild to get the real opinion of all the DXD holders on what we should be doing here, right? And DAO Talk is fine, but it's hard to really know, who's saying what, and are they really, is it really the voice of the DXD holders? We don't really know, right? And so the DXD guild will I think, enable us to hear the voice of the DXD holders, and that's going to be super awesome. Yeah. All right, anything else? A couple of minutes left. Anybody want to throw anything in?
I was curious to ask Augusto how you were planning to avoid the the frailty of the current like problems with the subgraph. Like, are you planning to somehow just not show existing proposals, or like what's the idea to help with that?
Yeah, that's a tough problem to solve, but the idea would be to rely on contract states hosting the proposal ID and the IPFS hash, and then we need to find a cache solution, something that we can host, maybe something that we can update on as an organization on our IPFS of domain, a cache of all past proposals that were executed. So we can search through that static database, because once the proposal passes, it doesn't change. That is going to be immutable once it passes. So, and everything will be stored on chain.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So the idea would be to use IPFS for the proposal text and that kind of thing, if we could figure out something there.
Yeah,
because that's what Subgraph does do, right? They're kind of like the caching layer for blockchain, right? But they're kind of centralized at the moment. They're trying to become more decentralized. Hopefully they will. But yeah.
Yeah. Also here, well, the way that Alchemy works is that they index a lot of events that the organization that are thrown when you create a proposal, when you make a vote. So Subgraph index everything, and you can search through all the data more easily, which makes sense, because they are having a lot of organization created. It's not that they are handling one DAO. In our case, we can design something more way simple, because we don't have to index that many information, right? Yeah, the idea is to experiment with that and test and start playing with that, see how can we find out a cache solution that will make something decentralized and usable.
And maybe it is, I would say, even if it is like the slow, reliable version, there's probably value just from like a security, kind of decentralization standpoint, even if it's not the one that people like to use, even if people like to use the, Subgraph version on Alchemy most of the time, if there's like the reliable tank that you can always get in if you need to, that's good.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. Also think about DXtrust, for example. DXtrust, maybe the app, it's not super beautiful. It's not very nice to use, but it is there, and it's going to be there, and it will stay there because it is hosting on IPFS and communicates directly with the blockchain. So that's it. There is nothing in between. Only the user, when it connects, like you connect your Ethereum provider, and it's purely client side. So that's going to be there forever. And that is what we want. We want 100% stability, something purely decentralized, and then we can optimize it, right? Right now, if you want to work on DXtrust, you can find a way to optimize the app and make it like load way faster, index information more easily.
And then we just need to get rid of Infura and find a good replacement, decentralized replacement for that.
Yeah.
And MetaMask. People forget this, right? Because it's been around so long and it's so ingrained in your behavior. But when you're getting data through MetaMask, it's going to Infura and it's a centralized service. And hopefully someday we will get there.
DXtrust is actually just using Infura.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if DXtrust is a good example for completely.
Well, no, actually no. We removed that option, Hero. It is using like one Infura, but it wasn't using Infura by default. But now, if you want to interact with DXtrust, you need to connect the app. You need to connect your provider.
Right.
Which
is Infura.
But even in most cases, yeah.
Which is Infura, yes.
MetaMask uses Infura, and at the end of the day, you're just going through
the
Joe Lubin server, right? So like it's yeah. So I don't know. Someday we'll get there. I think we'll get there. People are working on things. All right.
Just one other thing I wanted to say on this is, and this is not just for if you're Gusto or Ezra or kind of Alchemy in general. I just think right now we have like voting and decision making, and then there's like discussion. And I think whatever type of kind of new voting system, new thing that we have, we need to collapse those, whether that's integrating the forum, kind of key-based conversation, videos, like we just need to kind of collapse that all into one thing, so that we can kind of get better at making decisions, much more transparent about all of these things, because like the information is only going to like grow exponentially.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But and I also feel like at this point we're maybe wrapping a few too many wishes into the same idea. I feel like it makes a ton of sense to do something that's meant to. It's almost like a security thing, like something where it's meant to rely as little as possible on anything centralized and be that core. But I don't think it makes sense to make that also the thing where we put in the forum, or even necessarily where we change the voting machine, right? Because that's also another risk. Like keep the same voting machine, make the core thing. Then if we want a better voting machine, if we want forums, like let's just work on that in the main app.